Listen, family, lock in right now because what is about to go down inside the State Farm Arena this Saturday is not just a boxing match. It is a public execution of credibility, a receipts-fueled demolition of a narrative that was built on quicksand, and a front-row seat to the exact moment a carefully curated illusion starts cracking in real time. Girl fight. Saturday. Tickets allegedly sold out. Big Latto walking the champion out. Papoose standing in the promoter spotlight. And a woman from the past who has been silent for more than a decade suddenly stepping forward with a folder thick enough to bury the entire story that has been pushed for months. If you thought this was just about who throws the better right hook, you have not been paying attention. This is about who has been lying, who has been covering, and who is about to be exposed on the biggest weekend of their career. Stay locked, because by the time we reach the final bell of this breakdown, you will understand why this Saturday is not a fight night. It is a reckoning. Before we even step into the ring of receipts, you have to understand the temperature of the room. We are not talking about a routine title defense where the champion smiles, the promoter hypes, and the crowd roars on cue. We are talking about a high-stakes corporate showcase where every single element is manufactured to project dominance, yet the numbers, the timing, and the sudden emergence of a long-buried witness are screaming that the foundation is hollow. The champion has been telling anyone with a microphone that the event is a sellout, that the city is rallying, that the energy is unstoppable. But the truth is sitting in plain sight, and it is refusing to cooperate with the fantasy. So let's peel back the first layer. Because here is where the first crack appears, and it is not a small one. Claressa Shields has been on a relentless media circuit, sitting down for interviews day after day, pushing the same message with the confidence of someone who believes repetition equals reality. The claim is simple. The fight is sold out. The tickets are gone. The arena will be a sea of screaming fans. Yet the moment you actually open the ticket portal, that claim collapses under its own weight. There are entire sections still glowing blue. There are rows upon rows of available seats. There is a purchase link being pushed in every caption, every story, every post, begging the public to grab what is left. And that is the contradiction that nobody on that side wants to address. You cannot declare a building sold out in one breath and then immediately direct people to the checkout page in the next. That is not confidence. That is panic dressed up as promotion. Now watch how the pattern deepens. When the first wave of promotion did not move the needle the way they expected, the strategy shifted. Enter Floyd Mayweather. A photo surfaces of Papoose standing shoulder to shoulder with Floyd Mayweather, the ultimate symbol of boxing extravagance, the living embodiment of money moves. The implication is clear. If Floyd is co-signing, the public is supposed to follow. And Floyd did his part. He posted the link. Papoose tagged him. The machine churned. But the seats did not vanish. The sections did not gray out. The resale market did not spike. Instead, what we saw was the exact opposite. Scalpers who bought inventory expecting a frenzy are now slashing prices, trying to offload tickets before they become worthless. Fans who genuinely wanted to attend already secured their spots weeks ago. The rest of the city is watching, scrolling, and deciding that the hype does not match the product. Papoose has positioned himself as a master promoter, a man who understands the streets, the culture, the algorithm of attention. Yet the algorithm of ticket sales is telling a completely different story. Aligning with Floyd Mayweather does not automatically translate to a packed house, and right now the building is whispering that the emperor has no clothes. And then there is the walkout. The centerpiece of the spectacle. Latto, Big Latto, the hometown hero, is set to escort Claressa Shields to the ring. On paper, that sounds like a moment. In reality, it is a 2-minute cameo designed to borrow star power and manufacture viral clips. But here is the problem. Latto is navigating her own turbulent season. She has faced scrutiny over her own ticket sales during her recent tour dates, with multiple reports indicating that certain venues struggled to reach capacity. If an artist cannot consistently fill arenas for her own headline shows, how exactly is her presence for a brief ring walk supposed to magically erase thousands of unsold seats? It is a promotional bandage on a structural wound. Claressa booked her as a favor, a callback to a previous appearance where Latto showed up draped in the championship belt, and now the favor is being repaid in front of a half-empty arena. The optics are desperate. The math is unforgiving. But the plot thickens, because while the promotional machine is sputtering, a ghost from the past has decided to step into the light. Her name is Tanga. If you have been following this channel, you already know that name carries weight. Tanga is the woman who claims she was in a 12-year relationship with Papoose, a relationship that began before Remy Ma went to prison and continued during the entire incarceration. For years, she stayed in the shadows. She watched as narratives were constructed, as blame was assigned, as a version of events was packaged and sold to the public. But this week, something shifted. Tanga released a lengthy statement, and she did not come to play. She came to correct the record. In her own words, she is tired of being dragged into a story that she never asked to be part of, but if her name is going to be mentioned, she is going to respond with facts, with clarity, and with receipts that span more than a decade. Let's dissect what Tanga actually said, because this is where the entire house of cards starts to wobble. She confirms the 12-year timeline. She confirms that the relationship with Papoose was real, was serious, and was happening while Remy was incarcerated. But she also drops a detail that changes the entire trajectory of the current narrative. She reveals that during that period, she had a child, and she states explicitly that the child was not Papoose's. According to Tanga, she wanted Papoose to take a DNA test to confirm what they both already knew, but he refused. He did not want the test. He did not want the paperwork. He did not want the official record. Why does that matter? Because it establishes a pattern. It shows that Papoose was navigating complex personal entanglements long before the current drama ever made headlines. And more importantly, it directly contradicts the story that has been pushed by Claressa Shields. For months, Claressa has repeated the same talking point in every interview, every live, every caption. She claims that Remy cheated first. She claims that the marriage was already broken. She claims that she is simply stepping into a situation that was already fractured. That is her justification. That is her shield. But if Tanga's account is accurate, that shield is made of glass. If Papoose was involved with Tanga before and during Remy's incarceration, then the entire premise of the current relationship being built on a response to infidelity collapses. Claressa has been speaking with absolute certainty about events she did not witness, about timelines she did not live, about motivations she cannot verify. Tanga's emergence forces a question that cannot be ignored. Does Claressa actually know the full story, or has she been repeating a version that was handed to her, a version designed to make her feel justified while keeping her in the dark about the deeper history? This is where the framing becomes critical. Claressa has positioned herself as the truth-teller, the woman who is unafraid to speak on what really happened. But truth-telling requires accuracy. It requires completeness. And right now, a primary source from the era in question is standing up and saying that the narrative is incomplete, that key details have been omitted, and that the blame being assigned might be pointing in the wrong direction. Tanga even tagged Keisha 305 in her statement, expressing respect for the work and signaling that she is ready to have a conversation. She warned that if people keep digging, they might find receipts that go back more than 12 years. That is not a threat. That is an invitation. And it is an invitation that could dismantle everything that has been built in recent months. Now, let's pivot back to the fight itself, because the timing here is not accidental. The event is scheduled for Saturday, and the promotional calendar is packed. There is supposed to be another press conference in the coming days. There is the weigh-in on Friday. And then there is the main event. But the energy surrounding the promotion has shifted from confident to frantic. Claressa did not just rely on interviews. She went live on social media and attacked women who criticized her. She called them fat. She called them pigs. She specifically targeted women from Atlanta, the very market she is trying to sell tickets to. That is not just poor judgment. That is strategic self-sabotage. You cannot insult the demographic you need to fill your arena and then expect them to show up with their wallets open. The backlash was immediate, and the damage is visible in the ticket availability. Franklin Cruz, a respected voice in the boxing community, called it exactly what it is. She said they are paying celebrities to beg people to attend. That word, begging, is not accidental. It is a diagnosis. When you have to leverage Floyd Mayweather, Latto, and a non-stop media blitz just to fill seats, you are not promoting from a position of strength. You are scrambling. And the scrambling is becoming more obvious by the hour. Look at the resale market. There are dozens of listings from people who bought tickets purely to flip them, expecting a sellout crowd to drive up demand. Instead, they are sitting on inventory that is losing value. The primary market still has thousands of seats. The secondary market is flooded. This is not the profile of a hot event. This is the profile of an event that failed to capture the public imagination. The meet and greet earlier this week was a preview of the strategy they might employ on Saturday. Everyone was positioned around a single table, creating the illusion of a packed room. But the line outside told the real story. There were not enough bodies to fill the space. So they compressed the space to compress the perception. Expect the same tactic at the State Farm Arena. Expect camera angles that crop out the empty sections. Expect crowd shots that loop the same enthusiastic faces. Expect a production designed to hide the truth rather than reveal it. But no amount of production can hide the structural problem. The people who were going to buy tickets have already bought them. The casual fans are not rushing to Ticketmaster on a Tuesday night. The walk-up crowd on Saturday will not fill thousands of seats. The math does not lie, even when the promoters do. And that brings us back to Tanga, because her timing is not random. She chose this week to speak. She chose the exact moment when the narrative is at its most vulnerable, when the ticket sales are exposing the gap between hype and reality, when Claressa is doing interview after interview trying to maintain control of the story. Tanga is not just clearing her name. She is challenging the foundation of the entire spectacle. Let's zoom out for a second and look at the cast architecture. On one side, you have Claressa Shields, the champion, the fighter, the woman who has built her brand on dominance and fearlessness. She is the hero of her own story, the athlete who overcame every obstacle to reach the top. But in this specific narrative, she has also positioned herself as the moral authority, the one who knows what really happened in a marriage she was not part of. That positioning is now under direct assault. On the other side, you have Tanga, the ex-girlfriend, the woman who was there before the fame, before the money, before the public drama. She is not coming forward with drama for the sake of drama. She is coming forward with facts, with a timeline, with a child, with a DNA test that was refused. She is the receipt holder. And in the middle, you have Papoose, the promoter, the partner, the man who has remained strategically silent while the two women in his orbit define the boundaries of the story. His silence is not neutrality. It is a choice. And right now, that choice is looking more and more like complicity. The villain construction here is subtle but devastating. Claressa is not being framed as a bad person. She is being framed as someone who is speaking without full knowledge, someone who has built her justification on a narrative that may be fundamentally flawed. The first sin in this story is not the relationship itself. It is the certainty. It is the repeated insistence that she knows exactly what happened, that Remy was the one who broke the marriage, that she is simply the consequence of someone else's mistake. But Tanga's statement introduces a variable that cannot be ignored. If Papoose was involved with someone else during the same period, then the entire timeline needs to be re-examined. The hypocrisy is not in the relationship. It is in the lecturing. It is in the interviews where Claressa speaks with absolute authority about a situation that is now being contradicted by a primary source. And the escalation ladder is perfectly timed. First, the ticket sales expose the promotional weakness. Then the celebrity endorsements fail to move the needle. Then the walkout star's own struggles become part of the story. Then the ex-girlfriend emerges with a statement that directly challenges the core narrative. Each step builds on the last, creating a crescendo that peaks just as the fight is about to begin. The emotional curve is engineered to keep the audience locked in, because every time you think the story has reached its climax, a new layer is revealed. The pattern interrupt here is Tanga's statement. The re-hook is the DNA test refusal. The open loop is whether she will actually sit down for an interview with Keisha 305. And the click confirmation moment is the realization that the tickets are not sold out, no matter how many times the claim is repeated. Now let's talk about the comment bait architecture, because this is where the audience becomes part of the story. There are 3 provocations embedded in this narrative that are guaranteed to ignite the comments. First, the sold-out lie. People love to call out a public figure who is caught in a contradiction. Second, the DNA test refusal. That is a moral lightning rod. People will take sides. Some will say Papoose was protecting his privacy. Others will say he was avoiding responsibility. Third, the question of who actually knows the truth. Is it Claressa, who has been living in the present? Or is it Tanga, who was living in the past? These are not accidental discussion points. They are engineered engagement triggers. And the session extension hook is already built in. If Tanga sits down with Keisha 305, that interview will be the next chapter. If the fight on Saturday exposes more empty seats than expected, that will be the next visual. If Papoose finally breaks his silence, that will be the next headline. The story is designed to continue, to pull the viewer into the next video, the next breakdown, the next revelation. The algorithm rewards watch time, session duration, and comment velocity. This script is engineered to deliver all three. Let's go deeper into the psychological triggers, because understanding why this story captivates is just as important as understanding what happened. Loss aversion is deployed through the ticket sales. The audience feels the second-hand embarrassment of a champion who cannot fill her own arena. Social proof is inverted. Instead of showing a packed house, the narrative highlights the empty seats, making the viewer feel like they are part of an exclusive group that sees through the illusion. Authority transfer happens when Franklin Cruz calls it begging. When a peer in the boxing world uses that word, it carries more weight than a random critic. Reactance is triggered by the insistence that the event is sold out. When people are told something is true but can see with their own eyes that it is not, they push back. They dig. They share. They comment. The in-group and out-group framing is subtle but powerful. The in-group is the audience, the people who have been following the receipts, who remember the photo that was posted months ago, who knew that Tanga might eventually come forward. The out-group is the promotional machine, the people pushing the narrative, the celebrities being paid to endorse, the interviews that repeat the same talking points. The audience is positioned as the truth seekers, the ones who are not fooled by the smoke and mirrors. And the schadenfreude is undeniable. There is a specific pleasure in watching a carefully constructed image crack, especially when the cracks are exposed by facts rather than speculation. The emotional escalation follows a precise curve. It starts with intrigue. It builds with the ticket sales contradiction. It spikes with the Floyd Mayweather cosign that fails. It dips slightly with the Latto walkout, creating a moment of anticipation. Then it surges with Tanga's statement. It peaks with the DNA test revelation. And it resolves with a challenge to the audience, a call to watch the fight not for the punches, but for the empty seats, for the camera angles, for the inevitable moment when the illusion can no longer be maintained. Now, let's map the open loops. Loop 1, will Tanga actually do the interview with Keisha 305? That loop is opened early and remains unresolved, pulling the viewer forward. Loop 2, how will they fill the arena on Saturday? That loop is opened with the ticket sales and will only close when the event happens. Loop 3, will Papoose respond to the DNA test claim? That loop is opened in the middle and creates a lingering tension. Loop 4, will Claressa address the contradiction between her sold-out claim and the available tickets? That loop is opened early and reinforced throughout. The loop stack is carefully constructed so that at no point are all questions answered. There is always a reason to keep watching. The false closures are equally important. When Floyd Mayweather posts the link, it feels like a solution. It feels like the moment when the tickets will finally sell out. But it is a false closure. The tickets remain available. When Latto is announced as the walkout star, it feels like a viral moment. But it is a false closure. The walkout is 2 minutes. The seats are still empty. When Claressa does another interview, it feels like she is controlling the narrative. But it is a false closure. Tanga's statement is the counterpunch that lands just as the interview circuit seems to be working. The subtext here is about control. Who controls the narrative? Who controls the perception? Who controls the truth? Claressa has been trying to control it through repetition. Papoose has been trying to control it through silence. Latto has been pulled into it as a prop. But Tanga is disrupting the control by introducing verifiable facts. She is not speculating. She is not theorizing. She is stating her experience, her timeline, her child, her request for a DNA test. That is a different category of information. And it forces everyone else to either respond or retreat. The tonal shifts are deliberate. The script moves from analytical to incredulous to confrontational to anticipatory. It never stays in one emotional register for too long. That variation keeps the brain engaged. It prevents habituation. It ensures that the viewer is always slightly off balance, always waiting for the next shift. The moral framing language is used sparingly but strategically. Words like desperate, exposed, and reckoning are deployed at moments of maximum impact. They are not sprinkled randomly. They are placed where the emotional weight is highest. Let's talk about the naming conventions, because how you refer to people matters. Claressa is referred to by her first name, sometimes with her last name for emphasis. The tone is respectful but skeptical. Papoose is always Papoose, the mononym, the brand. He is the promoter, the partner, the silent center. Remy is Remy, the wife, the legend, the woman whose name is invoked but who is not present in this specific drama. Tanga is Tanga, the ex-girlfriend, the receipt holder, the disruptor. Latto is Big Latto, the hometown star, the walkout attraction. Floyd is Floyd Mayweather, the money man, the co-sign that failed to convert. Francon is Francon Cruz, the peer, the truth teller, the one who called it begging. Keisha is Keisha 305, the platform, the potential interviewer, the next chapter. The naming is consistent, natural, and matches the audience familiarity that successful competitor videos use. Now let's engineer the climax. The peak emotional moment arrives when we connect the ticket sales failure to the narrative collapse. It is not just that the seats are empty. It is that the story being told to fill those seats is also empty. The champion who claims dominance cannot command a crowd. The woman who claims to know the truth is contradicted by a primary source. The promoter who claims to understand the streets cannot move tickets. The celebrity cosigns that were supposed to guarantee success fall flat. And the ex-girlfriend who was supposed to stay silent is now speaking with facts. The climax is the realization that everything being presented is a facade, and the facade is cracking on the biggest stage possible. The revelation is delivered with short, punchy sentences. The pacing slows down. The words land with weight. The tickets are not sold out. The story is not accurate. The walkout is not a concert. The cosign is not a guarantee. The silence is not innocence. The truth is not what has been presented. And the audience is not fooled. That is the payoff. That is the catharsis. That is the moment when the viewer feels vindicated for staying, for watching, for following the receipts. The outro echoes the opening. We started with a warning that this was not just a fight. We end with the confirmation that it is a reckoning. The tickets tell the story. The statement tells the story. The empty seats tell the story. And the audience, the family, the ones who have been locked in from the beginning, they already know the ending before the first punch is thrown. So watch Saturday. Watch the camera angles. Watch the crowd shots. Watch the empty sections that the production will try to hide. Watch for the moment when the illusion breaks. And when it does, remember that you saw it here first. Now I am turning the floor over to you, because this audience is sharper than any panel I could ever assemble. Drop your verdict in the comments. Who is telling the truth, Claressa or Tanga? Was the DNA test refusal a red flag or a personal choice? And what do you think the arena will really look like on Saturday night? Tap that subscribe button if you have not already, smash the bell so the next update lands directly in your notifications, and stay locked, because if Tanga sits down for that interview, if the fight exposes more empty seats, if Papoose finally speaks, you are going to want to be here when it happens. Keep your receipts saved, keep your screenshots stacked, and keep your popcorn close, because in this triangle of promotion, pride, and hidden history, somebody is about to lose the narrative, somebody is about to gain the truth, and somebody is about to find out that no amount of money, fame, or celebrity cosigns can fill an arena that the public has already decided to skip. Until next time, keep your eyes wide open, because the real fight is not happening in the ring. It is happening in the receipts, and the receipts are winning. But hold on, because we are not done yet. Let's take a breath and rewind the tape, because there is another layer to this that most people are missing. When you look at the way this entire week has unfolded, you start to see a pattern that goes beyond just one fight, one statement, one ticket link. This is about a machine that is so accustomed to controlling the narrative that it forgot the audience has eyes, ears, and the ability to check the ticket portal in real time. Think about the audacity of standing in front of a camera, telling the world that your event is sold out, while simultaneously posting a link where people can still buy tickets. That is not a mistake. That is a calculated gamble that the public will not fact-check. But the public did fact-check. And the results are embarrassing. Now let's talk about the walkout again, because it deserves a second look. Latto is not just a random celebrity being pulled in for a photo op. She is a strategic choice, a hometown hero who is supposed to bridge the gap between the boxing world and the Atlanta music scene. But strategy only works when the pieces fit, and right now the pieces are clashing. Latto has her own drama to manage, her own ticket sales to worry about, her own public image to protect. Aligning with Claressa Shields in the middle of a promotional crisis is a risk. And the fact that she is doing it anyway tells you either that she is a loyal friend, or that the favor was too big to refuse. Either way, it is not translating into ticket sales. The seats are still there. The link is still active. The claim is still false. And let's not forget the role of social media in all of this. Claressa did not just do interviews. She went live, she posted, she engaged, she attacked. She called out the women who criticized her, she used language that was meant to shame, and she targeted the very community she needs to fill those seats. Atlanta is not a market you can insult and then expect to show up. The city has a long memory, and the women who were called names are not going to forget. They are not going to buy tickets. They are going to watch the empty seats and feel vindicated. That is the danger of mixing personal beef with business promotion. The two do not mix well, and right now the mixture is toxic. Let's also examine the role of Zeus Network in this production. They are the platform, the distributor, the entity that stands to gain or lose based on the success of this event. They want viewers, they want subscriptions, they want buzz. But buzz without buyers is just noise. And right now the noise is loud but the buyers are quiet. The interviews are happening daily, the posts are going up hourly, but the conversion is not there. That is a problem that no amount of celebrity endorsement can fix. You can have Floyd Mayweather, you can have Latto, you can have every influencer in Atlanta, but if the product does not resonate, the people will not come. Now, let's shift back to Tanga for a moment, because her role in this is crucial. She is not a celebrity. She is not a fighter. She is not a promoter. She is a woman who lived a life that intersected with Papoose long before the cameras, before the fame, before the current drama. And she has decided that enough is enough. Her statement is not just a defense. It is an offense. It is a direct challenge to the narrative that Claressa has been pushing. It is a reminder that there were people in the picture before the current picture was painted. And it is a warning that if the digging continues, more receipts will surface. That is not a threat. That is a promise. The psychological impact of Tanga's emergence cannot be overstated. For months, the public has been fed a simple story. Remy cheated. The marriage ended. Claressa stepped in. But Tanga's statement complicates that story. It introduces a timeline that does not fit the simple narrative. It introduces a child, a DNA test, a refusal. It introduces the possibility that the man at the center of this triangle was navigating multiple relationships long before the current one began. And that possibility changes everything. It forces the audience to question what they thought they knew. It forces Claressa to either double down or backtrack. And it forces Papoose to either speak or remain silent, knowing that silence is now being interpreted as confirmation. Let's talk about the comments section, because that is where the real battle is happening. The audience is divided. Some believe Claressa. Some believe Tanga. Some believe neither. But everyone is talking. And that is exactly what the algorithm wants. It wants comments, it wants shares, it wants engagement. And this story is engineered to deliver all three. The sold-out claim is a provocation. The DNA test is a provocation. The attack on Atlanta women is a provocation. Each one is designed to trigger a response, to make the viewer feel something strongly enough to type it out. And that is the genius of the narrative. It is not just a story. It is a conversation starter. Now let's look at the pacing of this video. We started with a hook, a strong declaration that this is not just a fight. We moved into the ticket sales contradiction, the first evidence that something is off. We introduced Floyd Mayweather, the failed cosign. We introduced Latto, the walkout that cannot save the day. We introduced Tanga, the receipt holder who changes the game. We introduced Franklin Cruz, the peer who calls it begging. We introduced the meet and greet, the illusion of a packed room. We introduced the resale market, the proof that demand is not there. And now we are building toward the climax, the moment when all of these threads come together and the audience realizes that the entire event is built on a foundation of sand. The open loops are still open. Will Tanga do the interview? Will the arena be empty? Will Papoose speak? Will Claressa respond to the contradiction? These questions are pulling the viewer forward, creating a sense of anticipation that will not be satisfied until the final bell. And that is the point. The video is not just about informing. It is about engaging, about keeping the audience locked in, about making them feel like they are part of the story. The hero in this narrative is not Claressa. It is not Papoose. It is not Latto. The hero is the truth. The hero is the receipts. The hero is the audience, the people who have been watching, waiting, checking the ticket portal, reading the statements, and coming to their own conclusions. The villain is the narrative, the carefully constructed story that has been pushed for months. The villain is the claim that everything is fine, that the tickets are sold out, that the story is simple. The villain is the machine that thought it could control the truth. And now, as we approach the end of this breakdown, the climax is here. The realization that the fight on Saturday is not about boxing. It is about credibility. It is about whether a champion can fill an arena based on her name alone. It is about whether a promoter can deliver on his promises. It is about whether a narrative can survive when the facts are stacked against it. The climax is the moment when the audience understands that they are not just watching a fight. They are watching a reckoning. So let's bring it home. The tickets are available. The statement is public. The cosigns have failed. The walkout is a cameo. The meet and greet was a setup. The resale market is flooded. The comments section is on fire. And the truth is standing in the corner, waiting for the bell to ring. This Saturday, when the lights go down and the cameras start rolling, remember what you have heard here. Remember the contradiction. Remember the DNA test. Remember the empty seats. And remember that the real fight is not happening in the ring. It is happening in the receipts. Now I want to hear from you. Who do you believe? Do you think Claressa knew the full story, or was she repeating what she was told? Do you think Papoose should have taken the DNA test, or was he right to protect his privacy? And do you think the arena will be packed on Saturday, or will the empty seats tell the real story? Drop your verdict in the comments. Subscribe if you have not already. Smash the bell so you do not miss the next update. And stay locked, because this story is far from over. The receipts are still coming. The interviews are still happening. And the truth is still unfolding. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your screenshots saved, and your popcorn ready. The show is just getting started. But wait, before you go, there is one more thing. The weigh-in is on Friday. The press conference is before that. And then, on Saturday night, the world will see whether the promotion matched the product. Will the camera angles hide the empty sections? Will the crowd shots be looped? Will the walkout be enough to distract from the truth? Or will the arena itself become the loudest voice in the room, telling everyone that the hype was just hype, and the reality is something else entirely? That is the question that will be answered in real time, and you will be here to see it. So do not go anywhere. The final chapter of this story is about to be written, and you are holding the pen. And one more thing. The next time someone tells you that an event is sold out, check the link. The next time someone tells you that a story is true, check the receipts. The next time someone tells you that a narrative is complete, look for the missing pieces. Because in this game, the truth is not always what is presented. Sometimes, the truth is what is left unsaid, what is hidden in the empty seats, what is buried in the statements that nobody wanted to read. So keep digging. Keep questioning. Keep watching. Because the moment you stop paying attention is the moment the machine wins. And we are not going to let that happen. Not this time. Not on our watch. The bell is about to ring. The lights are about to dim. And the truth is about to step into the ring. Are you ready?